This video is going to just kind of introduce you to sketching, the letter forms, trying to get you to think outside the box and play a little bit with your tracing paper. So as you can see, I made in one of the software packages my 6 by 6 inch square with a border. So when I printed it on 8.5 by 11 paper, you can see the border. It's very clear. If you don't do this, it's going to be too difficult. So what you want to do is you obviously want to, I'm going to set this up like this, and then take a piece of tracing paper, right, and put that on there. Use your ruler, right, to kind of quickly just mark your bounding box. And if you notice, I always use the heel of my hand. I don't take it up. I just kind of move it around just so that the paper doesn't move. You can also tape this down if you'd like. Use your low tack tape. That would be best. And again, I'm holding it with a couple of fingers so it's not moving in place. Does your bounding box have to be super perfect? No, it does not. So there's my bounding box. All right, so then it might be easier to see. I have a dark paper, so it might be easier to see if you leave your white paper underneath the tracing paper, but you don't have to because I have white paper also. So I might move that out of the way, and I'm going to start to play. So the bounding box is really important because I need to kind of think about how I'm going to do this. And also, I noticed that I didn't flip any of my letters, and I might have wanted to do that. So if you didn't and you're having trouble seeing, yeah, that's not really going to work. So what you might want to do is flip some letters before you have to print out. Otherwise, if you can't flip, I know you can flip in InDesign and you can flip in Illustrator. If you can't flip, I don't think we can flip in Sketch. You'll just have to deal with this. And I'm going to, again, kind of play with the idea of positive and negative space, figure ground. Again, you're tracing here. Does it have to be perfect? No. It just needs to kind of give an idea here of what you're thinking about. And here's one N. All right. So again, if you want to kind of see what this looks like, you can put it in here and start making some ideas. Like that's obviously not. Obviously this part is starting to come forward. And if you wanted to color this in, you could to make it easier for you to see. You also could cut the letters out and tape them on. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to play a little bit here and see what happens. So I'm going to then kind of use this idea. Let's see, I'm going to cut that and then trace this over here. You won't know necessarily until you start playing. You might have to, even though I'm asking you to do only 2, it might take more than 2 to get one that actually works. Right? So now I'm going to, again, look at this with my white background to kind of start to see. Close your right eye, that might be helpful. Again, color this in really fast, but it's starting to kind of go very quickly. Here, I'll just do this for you, right? So we're going to do this really quickly, because the only way you really can see figure ground is to actually have some dark, here, my pencil, dark elements and negative space elements. Again, so you can see how fast I'm doing this. This kind of just gives us an idea of figure, right? And then the ground is the negative space. Right, so you can do this with charcoal. Try not to use a color. Just use really quick drawing. Okay, so starting to work a little bit. Again, I'm closing my right eye. I think there's still a little bit more negative space. Maybe I need something down here. Let's try something. Let's try a smaller O, not a big one. All right, so let me actually put this in here. So you ask yourself, well, how much negative space do I need? Again, it comes from balance and just kind of closing your right eye and looking. And if you see, I'm noticing I'm using the white background so I can see a little bit. I'm trying to say, how much negative space do I take away? That's probably too much ground, too much figure, not enough ground. So I'm going to kind of go down here just a little bit. And then draw this object. And then again, color it in really fast. Take it away. All right, now we're starting to get a little bit more. Maybe I needed a little bit more there. You can always go back in. You can erase it if you want, or just quickly. I'm going to add some more in here, and I can go back and erase that part. Okay, whoops, that moved on me. Okay, and I'm going to erase this part. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, just to give you an idea. All right, so again, how we're looking at this is, this is the figure, figure, figure. This is the ground, 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 and ground. So when you close your right eye, does this ground pop forward? Sort of, yeah, it does. Does this interesting shape, it's starting to have a really interesting shape here. This negative space, this ground space is starting to pop forward. Same with this one. You want this one to pop forward and that. So the interplay between back, the figure and the ground, the figure and the ground. So again, this is an asymmetrical balanced composition. Those are a little bit harder. Let's do another one, and I'll do a symmetrical one. All right, so again, you set it up, and I'm just doing this on the fly. I have not thought this through. You know, I'm just going ahead and I'm drawing just like you would. Obviously, I have more experience with seeing, so I don't expect masterpieces from you guys at all. I just expect you to keep drawing, keep closing that right eye, and see if you can see the equal parts figure and ground. All right, so we want to do a symmetrical composition. So I'm actually going to use a symmetrical object, this O, and I want to use the edges of the paper because that really does create some more interesting shapes than just putting it in the center. Obviously, that's not going to create your figure ground. Maybe if the O kind of touched all four, maybe if it was thicker, but I don't have that. I'd have to go back into the software, print it out, and do that. Or I could try to draw that freehand. That could probably and most likely would create a figure ground equal relationship. But I'm going to do something a little bit more creative. I'm going to touch my edges here. And let's see here. I'm going to go like this. So that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to trace. So again, I'm trying to do symmetry here, not asymmetry. I always have a tendency to love to do asymmetry, just because that's just my aesthetic. But I'm going to try really hard to do symmetry. All right, so that's one. And I could easily just let's see here. What am I doing? Oh, I could easily just go like that, right? And then color it in, and perhaps we have a symmetrical figure-ground relationship. You know, that's okay. But would it be more interesting if I try to do something like this. Touching is very important, because when you have letterforms touch, they create tension, but then they also create some very interesting negative and positive spaces. Right, so that's one. And then I'm going to go over to the other side. See if I can get this the same, on the same height. Hopefully my hair is not getting in the way, sorry. Right, that roughly looks about the same. Roughly. Again, these don't have to be perfect. You're going to choose some and recreate them in the computer anyway. It's just to give you an idea, not to jump to the computer and try to figure this out without making sketches, right? So here's my symmetrical one. Again, you might want to get a fatter pencil or marker or whatever so you can work a little bit faster. I'm working as fast as I can here. And we're going to get this as a ground, a figure element, right? And then you can see how this is starting to work. Might run out of pencil, I'll have to get another one. Goes down pretty quick. Yeah, I think I'm running out of pencil here. I'm going to have to get another pencil. Make sure you have a bunch of pencils at the ready. And do this one. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just trying to get a sense. Try to stay in your lines. That does help to see. Okay, you might ask me again, why do we have to do the sketches? Because again, I don't want you just to jump to the computer. I want you to think about these relationships and abstractions, drawing first, not just going to the computer. It actually can be quite intimidating to try to figure this stuff out on the computer rather than doing this. So again, that starts to work. This is ground, 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 figure, 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 figure. So this is a symmetrical one, and those negative spaces are popping forward, back, and forth. So at least do two, but you should do more. I mean, I even, besides these two large ones, I had a couple of small ones going just to show you what I was thinking about. This obviously is not finished yet. I might have to go in. Again, scale might be really interesting to work with here, right? So maybe I have to do something like this to try to get that figure more interesting, taking up more of the space. This is all about adjusting space in your composition. Once you can get a handle on this, you can really start to manipulate space. Then you'll know what you're doing as a designer and as an artist. Is that enough? Perhaps I'd have to color it in. I might need some, this is kind of thin, right? This is actually going to be all colored in, but I might need something up in here. Maybe I need to, and I'm going to use the same kind of orientation, the diagonal, rather than going like that. Why would I do that? It would create an emphasis point, and I really just want the rhythm to kind of be similar. So I'm going to use the same, and I'm going to put that in like that, right? So the difficulty is with the figure ground relationships is when you have a lot of negative space. Like this is a big piece of negative space. I might actually have to come in. It's still not, it's being seen as negative, right? So you still might have to come in, and it's okay if you overlap, right? You're just going to be coloring it in. You can experiment with overlapping. So basically it actually would be like this once you get it on the computer. And that starts to kind of create some interesting negative shapes. I'd have to color all this in to see where it actually is working. Okay, and that's just one letter. You can use one letter, two letters, no more than three. They don't all have to be lowercase. It can be upper, lowercase. Really, this is about you choosing letters that are interesting to look at and analyzing the positive and negative spaces within the letters and then within the square as you're arranging them.